She wasn't sitting, she was taped. A tiny 2-month-old black and tan German Shepherd pup, her paws flattened against the hot metal of a bus bench in Pico Union. A note above her head fluttered in the wind. Her name was Nora. She was soft, she wasn't mine. People stood in line for the bus, eyes sliding past her as if she were only trash. "Don't touch it," a man murmured. "Animal control will handle it." Another shrugged. A woman shifted her bag, moving it so it wouldn't brush against the little pup. I could feel the heat radiating from the bench. See how her paws trembled on the steel. Nora made no noise, no whine, no bark. She only looked at me, wide, wet eyes that begged louder than any cry. A German Shepherd puppy, not yet old enough to understand trust, left taped to a bus stop in the middle of the city. The kind of sight that fractures something inside you before you realize it's broken. I froze, torn between disbelief and anger. My name is Daniel. I'm 50 years old, and I thought I'd seen the worst this city could throw at me, but nothing prepared me for a shepherd pup, treated like garbage, quivered in the breeze above her, cruel in its simplicity. Someone near me laughed nervously and pulled out a phone to film. Another voice chimed in, "Leave it. Someone else will handle it." I watched Nora's chest lift shallowly with each breath, her small body trembling beneath tape and heat. For a moment the street seemed to fall silent, though cars roared, horns blared, and people cursed into their phones. In her gaze I saw only one truth: she was alive, and she was asking me if anyone still cared. My fists clenched as my feet edged forward. Around me, no one moved. The world carried on, blind and busy. Nora's stare didn't let me go, and I knew I couldn't turn away. I stepped closer, the crowd shifting uneasily, whispers following me as I reached for the fragile body of that abandoned puppy. Gasps rippled through the group waiting for the bus. As I moved near, man in a suit barked, "Don't touch it. What if it's sick?" Another voice cut in sharply, "You'll get fined for interfering. Let animal control do their job." Words stung, not because I believed them, but because they held the kind of detached cruelty that lets an innocent suffer. This wasn't right. This was Nora, month old. I couldn't turn my back. The city would keep moving while she may not survive. The sun beat down on the metal while her chest rose in shallow, rattling breaths. Tufts of fur stuck to the tape, her tiny body quivering like every second drained what little strength she had left. Someone muttered, "Breed's tough, it'll survive." I wanted to shout. She wasn't a stereotype, she wasn't just a shepherd. She was a helpless orphan pup to fight, too young to understand why the world had abandoned her. A woman with a stroller shook her head, pulling her child closer. "Sweetheart," she whispered, shielding his view. But the boy leaned forward anyway, his eyes locking on Nora like mine had, like he couldn't understand why no one moved. His small voice broke the stale air. "Mom!" The doggie's crying. The words were soft, but they struck like thunder. Heads turned, shoulders stiffened, yet still no one stepped forward. Nora's paws twitched weakly against the bench, her ears lifting just a fraction at the sound of the boy's voice. Fragile flicker cut deeper than any accusation. She wasn't gone yet. She was holding on, waiting. And the weight of that waiting pressed directly on me. I could almost hear my father's voice from decades ago. "If a dog trusts you, you don't turn your back. Ever." The memory hit hard, sharper than the warnings buzzing around me. This loyal pup wasn't just asking for rescue. She was demanding to know what kind of man I was. The crowd buzzed, annoyed, some amused, some uncomfortable. Phones recorded. Heads shook, excuses stacked higher. And in the middle of it all was this trembling pup with wide eyes. My throat tightened. My palms were damp. Fear gripped me, not fear of her, but of what it would mean if I turned away. Once I touched that tape, there'd be no undoing it. Her life and mine would both change. I looked once more at the child's face, then back at Nora. Suspended heartbeat, I knew the next move had to be mine. I bent down. The air thickened. Whispers flared. Warnings hissed. "Don't do it, man. You'll regret it." But their voices vanished the second my hands brushed the tape. Nora flinched at my touch, tiny ribs shuddering as if bracing for another blow. I whispered, "Easy, little one. I've got you." My voice shook as much as her body, tore cruelly at her fur, and each careful pull felt like peeling away pieces of her short, battered life. She didn't resist. She was too weak, too tired. Small, her heartbeat pounded against my palm, frantic and shallow, a fragile drumbeat of survival. People stared, some shook their heads, others raised their phones higher. But no one helped. In that crowd of dozens it was just me and her. When the final strip came free she collapsed against me, sagging like a rag doll. She weighed almost nothing, skin, bones and fear. Her breath hitched in tiny gasps against my chest. For a moment, I thought she might slip away right there. She smelled of heat, dust, and neglect. But beneath it lingered something pure. Puppy scent, innocent, undeserving of any of this. A woman muttered, "You're crazy." I didn't answer. All I saw was Nora's face pressed into the crook of my arm, eyes closing, her fragile trust laid bare. A rescued puppy in the middle of Los Angeles, lifted into the light like she'd been waiting for someone. Anyone. To choose her. The boy tugged at his mother's hand. "She's better now, right?" His voice carried a hope I couldn't promise yet. The mother's eyes met mine, and for the first time, someone else's gaze wasn't cold. She nodded faintly, stepping closer as if she understood the weight I had taken on. I pressed Nora closer, feeling the tremor in her tiny legs, her heartbeat tapping against my chest. She wasn't out of danger. Not even close. But she was free of the bench, free of the tape, free of that note that had marked her final hours. And as she sagged heavier in my arms I knew the hardest part wasn't over. It was only beginning. Her weight was almost nothing. Terrified me more than the tape ever had. A 2-month-old German Shepherd should be wiggling, chewing laces, pawing at my chest. Nora just lay limp, brushing faintly against my shirt. I whispered her name like a vow. "Nora, stay with me." I had no idea if she could hear. Tugged his mother's sleeve again, his small eyes wide. "She needs watered," he said with the simple certainty only children carry. This time, his mother stepped forward, fumbling in her bag until she pulled out a half-empty bottle. I tilted the bottle, letting drops fall one at a time toward Nora's mouth. Nothing. Then, just once, her tiny tongue flicked out to taste. Relief surged through me like a tide. She was still fighting, even if no one else could see it. Around us, the crowd scattered. Some shook their heads and boarded the bus, relieved the problem no longer belonged to them. Others lingered long enough to snap a picture before walking away. Their absence felt like a door closing, but maybe it was better. The only ones left were me, her child, and this fragile shepherd pup who hadn't let go yet. I pulled Nora closer. She should have been running, chasing, tumbling through grass. She trembled in my arms, silent and weak. My chest burned with anger at the faceless hand that wrote that cruel note. "She's not mine." Those words erased responsibility, as if her life could be tossed aside like trash. The woman touched my shoulder. "There's a shelter a few blocks away. Call ahead," she said softly, her son clinging to her leg. I nodded, grateful. I wasn't thinking about rules or fines anymore. Only minutes, maybe seconds. Breath a battle for this orphaned pup. Nora stirred faintly, paws twitching like she was trying to run in her dreams. The smallest motion, but it felt like a plea. She wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. As we walked toward the car, the boy's voice broke the silence again. Fragile but firm. "Don't let her go." The door shut, muting the city noise. Nora curled in my lap, lighter than air. A 2-month-old German Shepherd should feel sturdy. She felt like nothing in my arms. Just skin, bones, and hope stretched thin. Her ears twitched weakly, breath shallow. But when I whispered her name, eyelids flickered as if she knew the sound. The boy leaned forward from his booster seat, juice box forgotten. "She's small," he whispered, soft but full of wonder. His mother adjusted the mirror, knuckles tight around the steering wheel. She was scared too, though she tried to hide it. This wasn't her fight. Yet here she was, driving us through Pico Union toward the nearest shelter. I stroked Nora's fur, rough where the tape had torn. Touch was a vow. "Stay with me, little one. Don't let go." She was too young, too fragile, too much astray to fight this alone. Anger flared in my chest. Anyone abandon a pup this innocent? But anger couldn't save her. Only action could. At a stoplight, a man glanced into the car, raising a brow at the sight of the pup in my arms. He shook his head, mouthing something I couldn't hear, then walked on. The city kept rushing past, to a growing puppy fading in plain daylight. I tightened my hold. She wasn't invisible, not to me. Nora whimpered softly, a thin sound. She was still here. The boy gasped, clutching his juice box tighter. "She talked," he said, a smile flickering across his face. Mother met my eyes in the mirror. For the first time, I saw the same fragile hope reflected back. I brushed my thumb under Nora's chin. "That's right. You're still here," I whispered, though my voice broke. She pressed her nose briefly into my hand before sagging again, drained by the effort. "Not gone, not safe either. Not yet." The shelter sign appeared ahead, a modest building, faded paint, but it looked like salvation. I exhaled, clutching her closer as her paw twitched against me, a faint motion that felt like both a plea and a promise. The shelter doors swung open, scent of disinfectant and barking echoing around us. I carried her inside, her head limp against my arm, fur still sticky where the tape had torn. Month-old pup should have bounded toward the sound of other dogs. This one barely stirred. A volunteer rushed forward, clipboard in hand, but her face softened the moment she saw Nora. "Oh honey," she whispered, not to me, but to her. She led us quickly to the back, down a hallway lined with kennels where other dogs pressed noses through bars. Nora didn't lift her head. They spread a towel on the table. I laid her down gently, folded awkwardly, paws twitching faintly as if even resting cost her strength. The vet entered with calm urgency. He checked Gum's eyes, pulse. "She's dehydrated, weak," he said, voice clipped, professional. "But she's got fight in her." The words hit me like a lifeline, slid a fluid tube beneath her skin, the bubble forming like a second chance. Nora whimpered faintly, a sound that cracked something inside me. She could still feel, still respond, still hold on. The boy peeked in, clutching his mother's leg, eyes locked on her as though his stare alone might keep her alive. The vet looked at me. "She's young. That's her advantage. Puppies this age bounce back if they're given the chance." I swallowed hard, because I knew what he wasn't saying. Without help, young dogs fade fast. Linked once, her lashes fluttering, her gaze meeting mine. Weak but there, a tether to this world. I reached out, letting her paw rest in my palm. So small, covering 2 fingers. That touch was trust, fragile and undeserved, but given anyway. The vet nodded toward the IV, fluid dripping steady. "Give her time, watch her. She'll tell us what she wants to do." I hated the phrasing, hated the weight of it. She didn't deserve to choose between life and death. She deserved to live, to run, to grow. Her paw twitched faintly in my hand, the smallest pulse of movement. And as the drip ticked on, every second mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. Hours blurred. Beeping monitors. Hushed footsteps. I sat in a hard chair, elbows on my knees, watching every flicker of movement. Nora lay under a thin blanket, chest rising in a steadier rhythm now, fluid feeding life back into her small body. Around us, other dogs barked, but my world had narrowed to one. This abandoned pup fighting for her chance. The boy and his mother stayed too, quiet in the corner, a stuffed toy, eyes fixed on Nora. At one point, he whispered, "She looks like she's dreaming." For a moment, I let myself believe it. Her paws twitched, her ears flickered, like she was chasing a life she hadn't yet lived. The vet returned, cautious but not hopeless. "She's responding," he said. "Still weak, but the spark is there." He nodded toward the monitor, its blip stronger now. My throat tightened. For a pup this small, a spark was everything. The difference between fading and finding a future. I leaned forward, brushing a fingertip against her paw, stirred, eyelids lifting halfway, and for the first time her gaze met mine with intention. Not through me, at me. It hit like a punch to the chest. She wasn't just surviving, she was choosing to stay. The mother smiled faintly, resting a hand on her son's shoulder. "See, she's stronger than she looks." The boy nodded eagerly. "She's a brave pup." The words fit her perfectly. Brave. Fighting against cruelty that had tried to end her story too soon. I thought of the bus stop, of the ones who'd turned away. They hadn't seen this. They hadn't seen her lift her head, however weak. She wasn't giving up, but I had. And now, like it or not, I was part of her fight. Nora's nose brushed my hand, a faint sigh slipping out. Anything but enough to spark hope, and in that moment, I realized hope was as terrifying as despair. Because hope meant she might live, and it meant I had to be ready if she didn't. Night fell heavy over the shelter, the buzz of day fading into tense quiet. I stayed at her side, listening to the drip of her IV, and the steady hum of machines marking every fragile heartbeat. The vet checked one last time before leaving. "She's stable for now," he said softly. "But this is the window. The next hours matter most." I nodded, though my chest tightened, because I knew he was right.